The original favourites, Fallen from Grace, now back on the rise once again. Very curious to see what these bans are going to be. We spoke about them quite a lot already. Glaz, the first one taken away. Not too surprised. See him used sometimes on Kitchen if you're going for more of the long snipe down through service itself, playing around those smokes, sometimes on the windows as well. So not wildly surprising, but more kind of niche towards those particular sites, I think. Second man coming away, I would expect to get on the attacking side. Not too sure. You can see a number of things taken away, but in this case, they're going to choose to go with the Blackbeard. So more window play being banned. That's interesting. There's been so much focus on that window play for both sides so far.
Blackbeard's a bit of an interesting one, because I only ever really see him being strong on a bomb site like that Penthouse and Theater. If Mira gets banned, which typically she should be, oh, right, this is a spicy match indeed. This is getting interesting. Not only is Blackbeard, who really only brings presence to one bomb site, which I would argue is that Penthouse and Theater. I don't think he does a lot on Blue Bar because he can't get jumped out on. And also Mira's being let through as well. Right. I can see the glass ban. It's a bit of an obvious one. Blackbeard, like I said, sure, perhaps. Try and counter, certain players you're scared of. But again, XTreme is kind of banning Blackbeard whenever Shiro's a Blackbeard player. Very confusing. Smoke. Counter Brid. But then you're also limiting yourself.
It's weird. It does open up opportunity. I mean, Echo's still on the table, so maybe less so. But it does open up opportunity. What on earth are they going for the picks here? Okay, Echo's coming out. That's a bit more sensible.
Yeah, I like the clash.
I'll buy into it.
I kind of like the clash there for Penthouse and Theater.
I think it's super niche.
I have seen teams where Mira's been banned, and they use that substitution of a clash as that intel gathering. You have to remember, clash is also like a walkable Mira window. No, she is an intel operator at its core. She gains intel. And if you counter both, if you have both of those, a Mira and a Clash, I know what you're going to do if you're an attacker. You're always going to be scared because they're always going to be watching you.
It's there as the intel, but my thinking is always, would I prefer to have something like a Valkyrie or an Echo or a Maestro? Yeah, probably. I think I'd much favour the latter two as well, purely because of their guns when it comes down to it, as well as the intel that they can provide. So I get the Clash argument. It's useful if you want to block off a doorway, like you can stand between Penthouse and Theatre if you really wanted to, or play inside Guitar. Other than that, I wouldn't really bother.
Looking at the lineup on the attackers from XTreme in this scenario,
I love Jackal.
We are going to be seeing, the Jackal for the first time this evening, an operator which I'm a big fan of. I like the fact that he has two options of solid guns, and that is the PDW or that C7E. I prefer the PDW. I think Joystick kind of got me on that old PDW Fred. But also the fact that he can, his main gadget counters roam game. Everybody knows that. It's very annoying to deal with unless you bring a mute, which in this scenario, Vitality have not. But also, he acts as a soft breacher as well with that shotgun, and that's very strong on a map like Coastline, like we've talked about, a lot of destructibility factors being enabled. I'm liking the operator lineups from the players of XTreme. Oh, nice pinch.
Nice. Very nice. Bring him on the Rook down through, and what a surprise there. Rook, normally you see a Jaeger playing behind the bar in this instance, but it's going to be a Rook, so the big boy with a big gun is holding it out. And sure, with a great peek around the corner there, instantly gets the kill across as well. And it's more of what we saw a bit earlier on today, oddly enough. So XTreme are the ones now starting to pick off members on the side of Vitality. Not what we'd expect to see, given how previous results have gone. But they are playing it very safe, just constantly waiting for those little angles to show themselves and going for the headshots when they can find them. They find themselves in a comfortable spot. Whereas Vitality being down 2 members, they've got to make use of every single resource they've got. One of those being that Echo. And that could be the big saving grace for them into the later stage of this round. I imagine they still have the C4 on that mirror as well, in case they do go for a push-in. But otherwise, well, it looks fit with the Jackal potentially coming up behind them as well. They need to be very wary of where that angle comes around.
Wall, it's also just lurking in the back hallways. Potentially could go for a late rotate all the way around. But like we've talked about, trying to roam, or not try to roam, try and go for a late rotate and flank maneuver. You do limit yourself because, of course, that rooftop can be held by anyone. And also the fact that XTreme are even putting more emphasis on stopping the roam game. They've brought the Nomad as well, so that does limit it even more so.
Very quiet 45 seconds or so. I would have expected to see at this point Liv getting around a bit more and making more happen on that Jackal, because as it started so far, well, he got inside office, and since then hasn't done a whole ton. There he is up on the roof, so trying to find his way around, but I don't know. It's been a very quiet round while the rest of his team has been busy.
Yogurts will go for the swing in. It's going to be a bit of a freebie here, but of course will get tied up and does jump straight back out. Bibu has been down and Voy will go for the plant. That was a good bait and switch. They thought the Yogurts had the diffuser. However, it was Voy with it the whole time. However, Qual gets one back for himself, and it does give them something to play off. I'm sure the air jabs have been scattered around inside of that VIP. And look, the diffuser has actually been dropped because of Grid. The shotgun has managed to down the planter, and it's been swung in favor of Vitality. Yogurts and Renshiro do not have the time. Vitality pull it out of nowhere. Like a wizard, they just completely tear apart that entire push. That should not happen.
This is a great example of why Mirror should be banned away for this point. They played 2 people themselves inside a theater, more than happy sitting there watching in towards the point itself. And of course, being sat on the site themselves, they were also protecting that by proxy. You had the Jaeger playing outside in corridors, keeping an eye on the stairs, which they had the Echo drone set on anyway for intel. They had him watching down the long corridor in case someone tried to push VIP, which meant realistically for the attackers, there was only one way in. That was to push from the outside in towards VIP through Guitar, or potentially through that wall onto the other side of the bed. At which time, as soon as they heard that, the Jaeger could go right. I know I can rotate. I know where they're pushing. That's exactly what we saw happen. It was just really well defended by Vitality. And you said yourself, slower, strategical playstyle is where they excel. It's exactly the same when it comes to defending. Beautifully played by Vitality, even in those odds in a 5 versus 3.
I don't understand how XTreme have a 5 versus 3 lead. They are also bringing in Nomad, and they still allow a Jaeger to flank them. How is that a thing? My obvious air jab would put 1 on the 90. Is that not the obvious one? You put it on top of waves, no?
Just anything covering that doorway would have been fine. Anything that as soon as he even starts looking through finds itself being blown backwards would have been great. Even if you tried to run through, because that's exactly what he did. Ran through, looked towards the right wall, found the spray down, and that kill was there ready and waiting. And that's... I don't get it. I'm completely with you. 5 men left alive, and you can't have even 1 dedicated to flank watch in that case. That's painful. Maybe they just kind of assumed because there were only 3 remaining that they wouldn't be so daring to go for something like that, like a big flank. Well, this is Vitality, guys. You cannot underestimate them. There is a reason they are sat at the top of the leaderboard right now.
Oh, I just don't get it. One bit.
Perplexed.
So we head in to round number 2, and of course, because they have started off so strong, and they have managed to win a Penthouse and Theater, what's to stop Team Vitality going for every other bomb site? They could go for all 4 if they want to, and their next one on the list will go for the kitchen. However, XTreme see an opportunity. They went for the jump in, jump out tactic. However, they have dropped the diffuser. We could have seen a quick plant going in, but no, they have just tried to go for the sneaky kill. And Qual is down to such low HP, but I'm sure Bibi will be able to stim him back up, being that healer on the team. Healers are something I'm sure you're very common to, Des, and other esports titles.
Yep, far too many of them, mate, and people hate them in my game.
Have mercy on me. Have mercy.
I hate you.
No, you don't. No, you don't. You hate quad tank. That's what you hate.
You know. Thankfully, there's only 2 tanks in this game, essentially looking towards things like the Doc and the Rook. And of course, neither of them, well, one of them, sorry, is present right now. No double combo, so just a single tank make things a lot more balanced for everyone.
Looking at Sneaky, he is in a very potent position because he could potentially stop any destructibility that Void could want to try and take place. Even Liven with that secondary shotgun. If he eliminates Liven, first of all, that's Jackal, so those Inox pings, which are very pesky to deal with, especially if you're inside like a 1 versus 3. That's always a good kill to get. But Sneaky, waiting, playing it strong. At this stage, I think Vitality have control. They know they have control, and they're just starting to let XTreme bleed out every now and again. XTreme aren't really sure what they want to do. They have no drones. Liven is still cautious of a potential roamer and looks the wrong way. Sneaky puts him in the bin. Boy, however, gets the re-kill onto Bibu, and it will be a 4 versus 4.
It feels like a lot of it comes down to XTreme just not having the urgency to execute once they do find themselves in advantage like we saw in that first round. This round here, Vitality looking a bit more alive and more than happy to go for pushes. That's the kind of play you want to see out of line, though, pushing straight in and bringing down a member, bringing it into a 4 versus 3. So far, I think it's been permanently numbers ahead or even for XTreme. They just have yet to actually turn into a victory. Goes to the interrupt, gets it through as well, down into the final 6 seconds. Questions what can they do to interrupt it because no one else is left down there. Doesn't matter because they'll still go down there and find the kill. Yet again, running into the overtime, Vitality are the ones who pull ahead. They just interrupt the plants. Don't give XTreme a way to get on site and actually make anything happen. And without killing everyone, Vitality have found themselves 2-0 after 2 rounds.
Vitality played that perfectly. They had the upstairs control inside a penthouse. Nobody from XTreme wanted to push that because they don't really have the best utility to deal with that. Because they're not bringing Hibana. That's the big thing for me. I don't get why they're not bringing the hard breach. Sure, whenever Mira is banned, like hard breach and coastline, it's not a necessity. You don't really need to bring it that often. But whenever Mira is there, Hibana is that biggest counter. If you don't want to bring Hibana, then at least bring Twitch. That's still an option to get rid of the Mira windows.
It's funny to stop when we do go back to that point because, of course, in the next round, I imagine full well that if this is a victory, we go back to Penthouse again, and that's where it all changes back to being what it was before. We do now go to... Yeah, this is my favourite site, though. I love Hooker and Billy's. I find it a really interesting point because of all the angles that can get set up on there. I'm most interested to see how they mix things around with what they've got. Legion, you very commonly see playing downstairs inside security, playing is more of a roamer style. No smoke being brought, of course, because he's banned, so that might make a bit of a change, because normally that's where you play hard anchor to sat inside at the very back of point B, sit there with at least a couple of angles looking through with those smoke grenades on towards the default plant spot on A, and that is basically the core of your defense. Without that on side, they've got to change things up and see how they can change things around, and potentially still cause an upset without having to utilize that smoke, which has been so good for the delay tactics into the later stages of a round.
The fact that XTreme went for the smoke ban, it kind of leads me to believe that they're kind of playing how old Vitality used to play, and that's try and run the clock down as much as they can. It's a bit of a weird one, that. You're now playing the strategy that this team you're playing was known for.
And trying to run the clock down with no smoke? That's a big monka.
It's not even that. It's a viable strategy. Running the clock down is a viable strategy if you execute it well. The only thing that I can see XTreme not doing, go on.
You're more on about when you go for the attack rather than running the clock down rather than the defensive side, right?
Yeah, the attackers, because this is XTreme, they banned the smoke to then have their upper edge in the attack's first 6 rounds. But the fact that they're not going about and actually going to take control of above for a kitchen, that baffles me. If you want to try and run the clock down, you need to make sure that you can eliminate every single factor that stops you from doing that. If they had upstairs control and got the picks onto the anchors, then we would not have seen that kitchen retake go down like that.
It makes it tough, but I think they're aware now at this stage as well that they're 2-0 down, potentially about to be 3-0 down if they can't win this round, that things need to change. They've got to mix things up. Most parts here, they're playing very much so the same. They have got that IQ, so at least have some capability to be able to deal with that echo, which has caused them a bit of bother so far. As long as he doesn't go down too soon, and Ranshiro, unfortunately, I guess, with that air jab, but he's playing in exactly the same spot that he was earlier. Did quite a lot of work on one of these windows. I think there was the one further back across, looking instead in towards billiards. Well, at least for now, has the angle inside point itself and can see absolutely no one inside.
And again, XTreme, taking very long with actually establishing a push. We'll get punished for it. Spark finds the first kill on Devoid. That's the buck. That's the frag grenades off the table. And any potential soft destruction from below, which is where he was trying to enter in from. And this is what I don't get from XTreme. If they're trying to take control of downstairs, and you're relying so heavily on that buck, why are you not having someone else support him? Because typically it should be buck goes for the skeleton key. Whenever he goes for the skeleton key, he is vulnerable because he looks straight up. You need someone else covering from another roamer. And a map like Coastline we've talked about. That downstairs, people can just lurk inside of security for however they want until they do get pushed.
Down to 30 seconds as well, and very little has actually happened this round, it feels, for the most part. That smoke's going to come through as well, but the echo is there as well. Very wary of the potential run coming through. He'll be right to do so, because there is a Legion lurking behind him. Rashiro's gone as well, made some stuff happen. Suddenly, XTreme have turned on their heat. into a 4 versus 2 with 15 seconds to go. Down to 1 man remaining for them as well. It's all coming down to the Legion now and what he can do to interrupt this. We're into the final seconds, which might very briefly turn this into a 1 versus 1 whilst the plant goes down, but he's still got to make sure he finds the right angle. This retake might be tough, trying to spray down for 1 as well. Isn't going to find it. Diffuser goes down. All the work is on Spark to stop them getting this 1 round back, but knows full well that someone is playing in behind bar. Goes for it. Not that it matters, because Lion is there, ready to bring the kill across. And XTreme will find their first round in round number 3.
Give credit to the players of XTreme. They seen that opening, and they took it well to full advantage. Lion and Ranchero being that main driving force inside of that round. And it does leave Vitality thinking, well, maybe we need to put a little bit more attention in towards that rush coming in from the hookah. If they seen, some goo mines possibly being established, which I'm quite surprised there wasn't. Like, if you're going to bring the Legion, you want to try and sanction off every single avenue you can. Because Coastline, there is a lot of options in where you can kind of push from. There is, like, these single doorways, and I don't know, it's a bit of a strong one. Like, I'm going to make the argument, would you rather have your Legion put goo mines in multiple doorways, or would you rather have him stack it up in towards one side of the map? What would you rather have, Des?
It depends on timing in the round. Earlier in the round, multiple doorways to slow them down. Later on in the round, more so stats around the site so they can barely walk through the site without finding themselves tagged up 10,000 times over.
But sometimes I kind of see that happen from Legion players. Like, I know what happens to me. Sometimes you forget to deploy that goo mine every couple of seconds because maybe you see you've already thrown a goo mine at that door before. So then you could be looking at the 30-second mark. You're sitting there with 3 goo mines. At that stage, yeah, then I would probably try and stack it up in towards the bomb site or the
when you have
door
three in your backpack, you get rid of them as quick as you can. You get them down. Everyone's
been in that scenario.
Yeah.
Everyone has to have been in that scenario because it's either, oh, I've already threw one there, or I haven't had time to because I'm getting pushed. There's that kind of argument against it. But that does mean we will go to a complete rotation as we head then to the blue bar. This is what I was expecting from Vitality. This is just standard from them. They want to take everybody to every bomb site, keep them on their toes. And that's where I kind of come back to the whole players of XTreme having that the ability to bring a lineup which works for every single bomb site. And they've done that. This is kind of what I was expecting. And Yogurt's already getting things kicked off with a kill on the sneaky.
Good start. XTreme slowly starting to wake up then, it feels like, as well, shrugging off the sleep that they had in those first 2 rounds and starting to find the kills. And to be fair, back in round 1, they did do this pretty well. They did find 2 opening kills very early on from the windows. It was just the execution that came beyond that when it came to actually getting themselves onto site and making the plant down. They were just held completely at bay by Vitality. And as it stands so far, the round's starting to go the same way. They've got rid of Docs, one of those ACOGs offline. Of course, the heal's gone as well, which is always a great thing to have off the table. Could be very wary of that Echo because he has given them some grease so far. We've seen a few times now where things have been interrupted by that. They've been detracted by the Echo drone coming through, the Yokai, making work happen. There it is again, just keeping them outside this doorway. Gotta be worried that anything doesn't come through once again. But this time round, I feel XTreme have got plenty of time to work with and they are acting sooner.
Rancheros are starting to drone out, trying to find XTreme's next play, and maybe onto the unsuspecting mute that is known as Qual. Again, Ranchero still weary of anybody in towards that blue stairs, but he is a nomad and he can just simply put an air jab, and that means he does not have to worry about potential flank. Lion will do that dirty work where Ranchero was trying to do it himself, and this is the impact that Lion has, that fragging capability. That's what I think Falk was kind of lacking, and that's why they decided to make the change, because Lion just brings that prowess, he brings that explosiveness that we see from so many players. Take, for example, Stiggy and Ghost Skillet. He just pulls out a double kill out of nowhere. He just takes the frags. He wants to go in those gunfights. He's along the same lines as Alive. Live and Envoy find 2 as well. That goes into a 1 versus 5. Bread, we know you're good, but I don't think you're that good, as he does get 1 kill. But really, can he get any more so? Trying to creep his way up beside the unsuspecting Jackal, just barely misses a shot, so surely this is where the intel gets fed. And Ranchero, 40 rounds in the magazine will be enough to spray and pray and eliminate Spread with no ease.
Really surprised to see them going in towards Sunrise and Blue Bar and not back up to Penthouse again. I think maybe that's because they knew what what XTreme were expecting. So choose to try and confuse them a bit by going elsewhere. Well, ultimately it backfired because now XTreme are 2 rounds on the bounce. They're the ones looking slightly on fire. And so now we're going to see Vitality go for the original plan, it seems like, and go back upstairs to Penthouse and Theatre. They did a great job holding this down as 3 in the first round, even when they were still facing up against 5. So I imagine they'll feel quite confident here. It's a good chance to reset the tempo as well and take the wind out of the sails of XTreme once again.
Penthouse and Theatre is where we're going to go. This is what Vitality do. They take you everywhere. They always keep you on their toes. And I think this is where Vitality do the first 4 rounds to kind of analyze you, feel you out. At this stage, Vitality should know, oh, XTreme have picked the exact same 5 operators every single round. So what's the point of us bringing Echo if they always bring IQ? What's the point in us bringing... Actually, I was going to say that. Why wouldn't they bring Mira if there's no Habana? Why would they then bring a Clash if there's a Nomad and a Sophia?
I imagine in the case of the Habana Mirror thing, maybe it was more a lack of anticipation. Maybe they're trying to change things up. I'm not too sold because it worked so well last time that it feels weird to mix things up this much. But hey, you got your dream, you're seeing your Clash. Let's be happy with that.
Yeah, Clash still that substitution for Mira in most cases. Of course, not as reliable as there is more counters to the Clash. I think Clash just kind of brings the movement in terms of intel. It's like having a human drone on defense, which you can't really kill as easily as just a normal human drone. Of course, there is other intel operators that you could choose to do the same job, but of course we know IQ is always going to be a thing, so Echo is never really fought off. Hey, who knows, maybe whenever the new operators like Mozzie gets released, or not Mozzie, like Gridlock and Mozzie. Wait, what? It's Mozzie. Mozzie's the one with the drones.
Yeah.
Then, you know, we could see something a lot more different in terms of what it actually brings to the table.
That spider charm just hanging in the corner of the shield as well. Maybe
Good reference.
When I first saw it, I was like, nice.
That could jump on a drone.
Yeah,
oh, wait,
I did think that when I saw it.
Wait, those are the robot ones. Never mind.
Yes, yeah, the little robot
They've
ones.
been,
They look like spiders.
They've been robotified.
Basically, yeah, robotic spiders. That's how the world ends. Robo spiders.
With only 4 legs as well, keep in mind. So it's not really a spider.
Yeah, it's a bot. It's a crawling bot. We'll say that much. Although speaking of the Nomad, already taking a bit of shot as well. Not quite going down anywhere too low, but at least being held at bay for now. The Echo being off the table makes it interesting as well, because again, we saw last round just how influential it can be in terms of the interruption potential. But clearly thinking, you know, we've got to change things up here as well. Clash is what we really want to bring to the table. And notice as well how they built both of those big boys, those 2 tanks we were speaking about, bringing forward the duck combo, as one of my Norwegian co-casters calls it, the Rook and the Dock together. So they have that double ACOG on side and a lot of armor packed behind those guns.
Liven as well, haven't really seen him use too much of that Inox. I think he could potentially bring another operator that brings more to the board. There's still Dokkaebi available. That's another big operator that we know brings a lot. Ying as well is one, and there is more options rather than sticking with the Jackal, who hasn't really put an impact. Maybe he wants to play it. Maybe we're seeing something that something differently than what he's actually saying. But overall, Qual doing a great job at not only getting intel, but just trying to deny the access of them going through the hole. It means that they have to bring around different operators to get rid of that. Buck from below is going to try and go for it, but doesn't really find anything. And Spark a double kill for himself with that ACOG, as Red also jumps in on the action. Double French. You want the double French. There you go.
You want the double pain train coming out there while the ACOGs are focusing your way. And again, all that intel coming out of the Clash, like he said, was enough. Just like we anticipated, Demo, they've gone back to Penthouse and Theatre. They've reset the tempo a little bit as well and dragged them back down to their level once again. Renshiro pretty much stuck here as well. No chance of getting the bomb. All out of time as well. He is stuck and done.
Oh, Nomaded as well.
And that as well.
Unlucky.
If you wanted hell, being slow, being stunned, having guns railing your way, like, there's no way you even move from that situation.
So we do head into our next defense, and if the trend fits them, it will be the kitchen and service entrance. Last time Vitality won this, just by the nick of their teeth as well. You have to give credit to them. It was literally right down to the wire, but that kind of comes back to what we were talking about in terms of XTreme with this very slow playstyle. So Vitality, this is going to be their last defense. If they take a 4-2, then that puts the pressure on XTreme, because XTreme then know that they cannot let anything slip, and the way Vitality have been proven to be so dominant on their attacks, then I start to worry for XTreme. But still, XTreme, they have then their own prowess in terms of how their defense go. But then you come back to it, they've also limited themselves because they do not have a smoke available for themselves either. So there is that kind of side of things where, yes, you ban that smoke to try and give you an early lead. But once you switch over, you're now at the disadvantage.
Yeah. It's more what changes they bring to try and keep upsetting the apple cart here. And the Ella might be the change that Vitality are looking for as well. Now, Ella is something that we see an awful lot when it comes to Bank. When you're trying to defend those blue stairs, especially when you're going downstairs, we see a lot of very interesting holds, stacking up Jaeger ADSs up there, getting the deployable shields down. On other maps, we don't see it all that much.
There is moments. He has his moments where he does shine. Typically, Castle... Actually, surprisingly, I believe Castle is top 5 pick defenders inside of AU. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure I did see the little statistics that Pro League gives at the start of their broadcast. I'm pretty sure I seen Castle up there. And I think it just kind of comes down to the certain maps that Castle is effective in. Coastline's one, because there is a lot of different angles that you want to try and limit. One that comes to mind is always on the hookah and billiards, is that single window beside the hookah. That's always one that, if you're going to bring Castle out, always gets castled off. But then also for off-site holds, for example, in towards that top floor, Castle can be very strong in scenarios. But the way they're going to be using it for the kitchen, it looks to be to just slow down XTreme. They've castled off that main double door. That then allows someone to play aggressive on main stairs, like we are seeing at the moment. But this does mean that they have forfeited entire top floor control. And this is great from the players of XTreme. However, Bebu, a double kill out of nowhere on the back stairs, finds Ranchero and Yogurts. That's not only the soft breach from the Sophia gone, that's all the air jabs gone from Nomad as well.
Disappeared, dead, and gone. It does look easy to give the flavor over to Vitality, which for XTreme, again, I'm still concerned that the Jackal hasn't done too much. You can hear the pings going off now, so it's being used. Has it been used to the effectiveness we've come to expect? Probably not, to be honest with you, for the most part. And I think a lot of that comes down purely to the fact that the once or twice it's being used, Vitality are playing very close to one another. This is what you see at these top-end teams, and we've said it week after week. A lot of the time it comes down to that refrag potential, being able to take trades. And we're not seeing that opportunity really being presented right now by Vitality because they're playing so smartly and close together. So for XTreme, maybe this pick needs to change off a little bit, but this is, of course, the last round of the attack. Not that it matters too much anyway, but it has been a staple throughout the rounds. It hasn't really been the biggest standout for them. And now he's dead.
That's starting to pop off. He already found 2 for himself. However, the damage has been done as Bibu finds a 4K for him this round at UMP, putting in justice. And I think I'm starting to understand why we're starting to see that Castle in the top 5.
Beautiful. So, ending things out in a pretty healthy scoreline for Vitality overall on Warren. That means we get to switch sides and see what XTreme can do on their defense. 3 rounds for Vitality to claim this one and keep on the undefeated streak. 5 rounds to see the other side do it for XTreme to pull it all the way back, or potentially a couple rounds for Vitality. 4 for XTreme, and we find ourselves in a spot where there is another draw on the table. And I think for XTreme at this point, if you're starting to exercise this resurgence in a sense with Lion on side, this is the kind of match you want to force a draw from. If nothing else, to make a point and make a stand and say, we aren't a team that's going to sit here outside the top 4. We are here to threaten those of you that are starting to slip. They can bunny hop supremacy. They can put themselves in a great spot ahead of next week. It could be an exciting time for them, but these are the kind of games that you need to get results from. We said exactly the same thing about M&M earlier on. If they want to separate themselves from the rest of the pack, you need to be winning games against the big teams.
So overall, for Vitality coming out of that half, they should be quite happy with themselves. I love the dynamicness. I always love watching Vitality, especially whenever they can literally play every single bomb site if they wanted to. That's how strong they are in terms of their strategies. Comes down to, I think, the coaching and the analyst work that Vitality have behind themselves. But can XTreme also do the same? Can they show us the same flexibility and the adaptation that Vitality has shown throughout this entire league? You have to give credit to them for that. So overall, for XTreme, they will be starting off for a blue bar. A bit of a risky one to go for first. I would still have liked to see that the hookah and that billiards, just to get yourselves back into it, just to get our round on the board. Give yourself a bit of momentum. Of course, sure, you will eventually have to go for this bomb site if you win another 2. If you do win that top floor and then also that kitchen, you will then be forced into blue bar. I don't expect a team like XTreme would go for Penthouse and Theater, probably because they wouldn't have practiced that, because Mira is typically always banned. Another interesting fact about Vitality is that they have kind of changed up their attacking lineup to try and go along with what we've seen from Vitality. You know, they're bringing that main free core off, the IQ, the Sophia, and the Buck, but they're also bringing the hard breach just in case there is a Mira, and they've also brought the Dokkaebi just to get them into the bomb site, plus she brings smokes. That's kind of the switch in for the Jackal that we've seen live and bring so much for XTreme.
It is kind of an opportunity, I think, if nothing else, though, for XTreme to potentially upset the apple cart again. Just say to Vitality, oh, okay, you prep for this point? Well, guess what? We're not even going there. We're going to go downstairs and play our own game down here. No doubt I've got some prep for this as well. So potentially it's that chance to have the small advantage for yourself where you're in comfort, but also where you're forcing Vitality into discomfort. Not that they seem too bothered by it because they're still managing to get their way through. No kills have yet gone across in the opening 90 seconds of this round. But you can see Vitality starting to find the angles they're looking for on towards the point. Sneaky was a little bit quicker there. He could have had the head of one of those members running across just a second ago, but nothing to be found there, at least immediately. Looking towards all the intel there. Look how much we're seeing stacked up on the side of XTreme. They've got the Valkyrie. They've got that Pulse as well. Castle, potentially where they could want it, and you can even see the Legion traps being thrown in as well. They have a lot of intel they can play around here. Of course, the early warning system, as I like to call it, coming out of the Legion traps. It gives opportunity to slow Vitality down, but not that that bothers them too much. They've always been a pretty slow team. As we saw earlier on, they like to act in the dying seconds of a round, just like they did against M&M, to collapse and win the whole thing out, generally in about 30 seconds or so.
Hero does see a heartbeat right beside him, and we'll go for the quick switch, but of course, so don't be phone calls. An excellent pitch from Qual and Brid alike. Qual has been downed, but there is support there from 2 players of Vitality. Brid will be the first man to try and up in front it, as Spark will find Lion an excellent shot from the IQ, and I'm sure that we will see the revive come in from Qual. Still, 3 players on full health for XTreme, Void, Liven, and Yogurt. Liven lurking inside of that Sunrise, and if he can find anything with a very long angle, a hard one to hit with a reflex as well, doesn't have, you know, like, is a Doc or an Echo, he has that ACOG, as Yogurt's lurking upstairs. Very spread out from XTreme. But can this make it work? The plant will come in as Brid will start to initiate under the cover of his own smoke grenades. This is where the lack of the smoke coming in from XTreme, since it is banned out by themselves. Yogurt does find Bibby, but the job has been done. The diffuser has been planted, but all 3 players of Vitality are in such low HP. Boy and Liven trying to take control of Kitchen. He doesn't even see the IQ right beside him, and that will be the elimination. It goes into a 2 versus 3. Time is slowly ticking down, but a very awkward position to go for the defuse. One player up close and personal. It will be the Dokkaebi who does find Void. Goes into a 2 versus 2. Here comes a swing around from Liven, and Yogurt's like he finds one. Qual will find another, but Liven, does he have enough time? Yes, he does. What a retake from XTreme.
Fantastic round to end that one out. Like I said, a retake coming up big for them. XTreme find themselves with that first round on their side. And Vitality making the best of a bad situation. We said XTreme went to that point there to try and play spoiler to upset Vitality. It felt like they did it at the very start because it was a very slow round playing against all of that intel. Vitality still managed to make it work, and it just came down to those final few gunfights. Thanks to those high health bars as well, the members of XTreme managing to come out on top. So well played by them. A very clutch round coming out, at least pulls them back into the race. Else we could have been staring down the barrel of a 5-2 and a pretty much guaranteed Vitality victory at that point. But now they are just 1 round away from catching back up. We're going into Hooker and Billiards. Let's see what they choose to change around. I gotta say, it still feels really weird seeing this site being descended without the smoke, though.
It's just a very weird map in terms of not having the smoke, especially whenever smoke overall is a crutch for every single team, you'd have to say. He is, I believe, pretty sure the most picked operator in defense. He just has to be. He's that strong. He's always there. Sometimes we don't see him. It's a very weird circumstance whenever we don't, but certainly inside of EU Challenger League, we always see a smoke.
It is one of the go-to ones. It's interesting how considering it's so pivotal towards the final dying seconds of a round as well, that it's very rarely banned away. They probably banned away 2 or 3 times that I can recall in recent memory, but outside of that, nope.
It was banned on Friday night in G2 versus Secret, and that was literally the counter Stiz, but Stiz just then decided to go mute and popped off anyway, so...
What can I say? I actually really like mute. I think in most cases, if you remove the gadgets, you will prefer Mute every single time because he has so much flexibility in what he brings.
He has a C4, that's why.
Has the C4, has the shotgun, has the SMG. With the recent buff to the Mute Jammers coming through as well, with things like the Dokubi calls, I think everything about him he's just good. He does everything well. Smoke, of course, with the denial towards the last stage of the round cannot be ignored, but so much is provided by Mute that I think you just can't afford to write him off.
Man, you missed out whenever Smoke used to have a Nitrocell. You were missing out back then.
Bad days, bad days.
You remember that? I don't think you were there.
That was mate. I don't know. I played in beta a little bit. It was Mute on steroids.
Pretty much, and then they took that away and entered just impact grenades.
Woohoo!
That was a thing.
Let me some impacts.
Barbed wire rook back in the day. That was always fun. Javiera Nitrocell. Frost Nitrocell.
Which sounds equally ridiculous,
Ella
right?
impact grenades.
I remember
So
the
many
terror.
things.
I remember the terror-driven reign of Ella.
Yep.
Back during that time. Well, it was dark days, mate. It was dark days.
We say this, yet there was a lion period.
Yes, that was the thing.
You know, Lion, Dokkaebi, Glaz, Jackal Blitz. Fun.
Have fun, guys.
That
Being
was
trapped
good back
out
in
no
the
matter
day.
where. You can't stand still. You can't move. So have fun.
I like this. I like this particular position. I don't know what it is. I always thought there was only one way that you could jump up, and that was on like the little AC ventilation, and then you kind of jump through a fence. That's another new way I didn't know you could jump through tarps. And then there was also another one which Penta did, where you could jump up on the little wall beside the pool area and then come up from the bottom side of the tarps.
Okay.
But it's a very, very strong position over towards this tarps area. You can see the entirety of that B bomb site. If that wall isn't reinforced, then you can also see inside of A. So much stuff.
Someone pointed out in chat, Ash smokes, thermite nades.
Oh, Thermite Nades back in the day was so good.
I mean, it makes sense thematically, right? He's a demolition specialist. That's what he's there to do.
He was literally, he didn't even need a Thatcher. He could just eliminate a bandit trick himself.
Disgusting. 3 versus 5 already. There's 2 kills coming across to Fatality. Ooh, nice takedown from the side there as well by Livin. Off, of course, that Jackal. Now that they are on the defensive side, this time around he's on the Kide and still doing, well, and starting, I should say, to do work with that. Echo back on the field as well for Renshura. This time he was the one who was threatening the window pretty much the whole of their attacking side. I like the Echo being unbanned. Does give a lot of opportunity for them to be able to interrupt as, where, and when they want to. But with the Legion being down, again, one of those operators I think really builds in value as the round goes by. The Dokubi calls coming out as well. We'll give them some idea as to where they are. And rightly so, there's another kill coming across for the Kide, and the Echo left alone on this one as well. Goes around the corner, but no! Renshiro crouched down, finds 1, finds 2. That's the 3rd of the round so far as well. Can he find any more? Looking for his 4th, but that will be the diffuser going down. Not that it matters, as Fatality will find themselves yet another kill as we move ever closer towards match point and a potential Fatality victory.
That was a lot stronger from Vitality. That is just clinical. They got the early picks, which is what they love to have. If you give Vitality a 5 versus 3 with 2 early picks for themselves, that's the round done. Like, it has to be. Vitality are so strong at dictating the round. They literally are controlling everything that happens, and it's Vitality who then has to play to it. We've been blessed, as I can't believe we've been blessed.
He has visited us in passing, but I imagine will not be staying for long.
Oh, wow.
We are graced with his presence for but seconds.
Come on, Mira gave Tachanka, a mirror window pretty much on his.
Mate, he died for our sins.
He did. He also dies a lot, but that's beside the point. Just give him a segue. Let him scoot around the map with a turret on it. Easy
you imagine
win.
that? Like a Gatling machine gun, bloody, how you imagine, Gatling machine gun style.
Do you know how you nerf that, though? He can't go upstairs. So that's why we then initiate an elevator in every single map.
I just want a Gatling machine gun attached to a scooter and to let him ride it.
I'll be down with that. Just riding around.
Yeah, can you imagine?
Oh my. That'd be great.
It'd be something else, that's for
one day
sure.
it'll happen. But no, I don't think. I'm pretty sure that even though Tachanka is the worst operator in the game, I just think he's there for the meme potential. That's that.
I think he was designed with good intent.
The best kill you can get in competitive play, Tachanka spawn kill. That is the ultimate BM. That is that right there.
It's a holy blessing in disguise. We'll say that much.
That's it. That's all you have to do. Anywho, we jump back into round number 9, where Vitality, they are currently leading with 5 rounds to 3. So it's down to XTreme to try and pull back these rounds. Looking at XTreme, they're going for more heavy in terms of their roam and aggression tactics. They have about 3 roamers at the moment, not playing inside of the kitchen. They are instead scattered in towards that top floor and also towards the blue side of the map. For Lion, his real concern is to try and waste time and potentially get a kill. If he gets a kill and waste some time, that's your job done as a roamer. Mostly if you just waste time, that should be good enough. Really, you're just trying to deny access to a certain part of the map, and maybe try and get some utility if you can. Liven has also rotated beside Yogurt. He's playing as more of the support roamer, along with Yogurt and Lion just rotating between both of them. If they get call-out saying, one's beside me, he will come and try and play for the refrag. Renshiro as well, I love this about the Pulse. Not only can he see for anybody, the intel he can gain here, Dez, is unbelievable.
It's more a case of just Vitality playing the slow bleed style gameplay we've been speaking about all evening long, where they do just kind of wait and they just let them make mistakes, and quite happy to punish on the back of that. The Asorian roaching forwards, finding themselves yet another kill onto Lion. Not sure exactly where that kill came about, to be honest with you, but I'll be curious to know. Not that we'll find out, but either way, sat holding on to the kitchen itself. This is the very kind of old style mirror strat we always used to see, where you have that mirror window on the wall looking down through service, and you just do a pretty big hold inside of kitchen itself. But quite interestingly, playing on the other side this time round, just being a bit afraid of what else might be looming for them, I should say, on towards the other side. Looking towards actual blue bar itself is where you might see some pushes coming through. I think by the looks of it, there's no chance we see an attack coming through on the other side, but they're down to 3 members, so there's a lot of time here for Fidelity to work with. You've seen what they can do with 20 seconds left on the clock. We're at double that right now, 40 seconds to go. Expect the kill switch to be triggered very, very soon.
Also, the fact that the majority of that wall beside A is soft, we could see some kill holes being made by the Buck. Void tries to go for the Nitro Cell, but will land nothing, but he will land some shots with the Vector. Tries to swing around where the fuse is trying to be placed. The Alibi actually managed to pick up some pings, but the capitalization will not be in. Renshiro sends Fred flying. However, Bibu and Qual will clean up. And Vitality, they still remain undefeated inside of EU Challenger League as they at least get themselves a draw.
It's been more of a battle with XTreme, it feels, because 2 of these rounds for XTreme, they did basically win without dropping a single. I think in one round, the second round in particular, they dropped 1 kill, but the first round, none of them died at all. So they've shown that capability to perform. This is feeling almost like XTreme are playing at or above the level we saw out of Eminem. They've given more bother, it feels, if nothing else, over to Vitality than what we saw Eminem deliver earlier on tonight. That's so a good sign for XTreme. Somewhat worrying, I guess, for Eminem, but of course there are 4 top spots, so both of those teams can still find themselves up there. That then comes the question of about that Dark Horse Trust, who no one's really speaking about a great deal, who I think these top teams need to be very wary of and how much threat they can bring.
So Hookah Lounge and Billards is where we head to next for XTreme. Overall, XTreme have looked very lackluster in terms of their actual defense. Sure, they won 1 in towards the blue bar, but it was so close. You know, it came down right to the wire. They just are not doing what Vitality did. Looking at Vitality in their defense, they made it look light work with ease, but that's just the caliber between both the teams that sets the boys apart from the men. And certainly, the men in this scenario are Vitality. We head into our Hookah Lounge and our Billers, like I said, and we have not seen this bomb site. Actually, we have seen this bomb site. It was actually defended by them in round number 8, and Vitality won that attack. And I believe that was whenever Shiro was inside of a 1 versus 2 and could not pull it off. For Vitality, they have decided to switch up things. They've actually decided to bring that Jackal as well, which they did not bring for this last attack. Maybe they're just lacking a bit more intel. Maybe they're saying that the Habana and the Hard Breach didn't really do much for them, since Mira has been in and out of the XTreme lineup, but hasn't really been a mainstay. But I also like the fact that bringing the Jackal and the Dokkaebi gives you 4 sets of smokes. That's so much utility for going for a plant.
Looking towards the other side right now. Just want to make sure at least the penthouse side is clear and there are no roamers lurking around. I'm actually kind of surprised to see that Vitality chose to deploy the Jackal for this round, because we haven't really seen them bring it out at all so far. But here, I think more in this last round, they know that there might be some sneaky tricks kind of lying up the sleeves of the side of XTreme, and just want to make sure they aren't going to be caught out. Even seeing this reinforce is interesting because we never see that double door being stacked up.
That's quite an unusual thing to see, but it is. It's always something different. You know, something different is always a bit strange for teams to kind of play against. But overall, it just meant that Qual couldn't peek aggressively as he would have liked to in that scenario. Then he will hop on the old drone. I would like to see Qual here go below and start ripping up. You know, we've talked about boatloads of destructibility factors from below. You're bringing the buck for the reason, but I hope they do not fall into the same trap that XTreme had, and that is where they send Buck below by himself, so he's very vulnerable to a potential roamer taking that gunfight, and there's nobody there for the refrag.
You hear the phones going off as well. Someone answer it, please. Qual, as you say, has got underneath him at least. And now, once he's down here, he knows it's safe. He's done a lot of drone work so far. They've done all the hard work now to get him in position. With this dying minute is when we always see Vitality. I've said it so many times tonight. It's when they start acting. Now's the time to start going for this play. Now's the time to start finding kills. There's one coming through already into the 5 versus 4. You know, keep being chunked down at least a little bit by that, but nothing too scary for them. And you can see him underneath just waiting to see where they are and where they're lurking, taking apart that beautiful ceiling. What are you doing, man? They even got the pins coming through from his teammates as well, so has a rough idea of where they're lurking. Has those frag grenades on side as well, let's not forget as well. A couple of well-placed grenades. We saw some beautiful plays coming out a couple of weeks ago where players were still managing to make them work wonders for them in the Nordic Championship, finding 2 kills with both grenades. That would be the dream scenario here, but you've even got Sneaky holding off towards the side as well. Just watching these side angles, trying to deny any rotates away from the other side.
Just the impact the Buck has currently inside this round is incredible. The fact that Bibu, we seen, was covering. That's the difference between Vitality and XTreme. Just that one difference. Vitality have spread themselves so far away from each other. They have so many angles and crossfires established. So if the retake from the players of XTreme want to come in, they will have to work 10 times harder. That Echo Drone was destroyed before it could upset the defuse. And well, the 1 versus 4 is where it lies for Lion. And we hear the mighty beast roar. More like a meow, but hey, that is all she wrote for tonight, as Team Vitality dismantle XTreme as they take it 7 rounds to 3.
Vitality quite happily dismantling any who stand in their way, and I think tonight against 2 big teams in the form of XTreme and M&M, they have looked some of the most dominant, well, the most dominant we've seen them across most of the weeks so far, looking really good for them going into the final 2 weeks. They are now in a spot where it is very difficult, if not almost impossible, for any team to knock them out of those top spots. They're currently sat there 8-2-0, I think it is, after today. Other teams are sat currently down there looking towards endgame where they're 4-1-5, for example. They've got to win literally everything and beat the map score coming out of Vitality. It's almost impossible and a bit too much to ask for. So at this point, it's pretty safe to assume they will be the ones definitely going through to playoffs, if not looking straight ahead with 2 extra map wins over most other teams, looking towards having that instant qualification spot.
Yeah, we'll have to try and go over and see some of those scores and see really how it sets us up for next week if Vitality have qualified for playoffs. I'm sure we'll probably find out. Of course, there is still other matches being played as well currently over on our sister channel, which is Rainbow Six Benelux. So there's still plenty more stage coming at you. But overall, I think Vitality, this is their strongest showing we have seen throughout all the weeks, like you said. They look so dominant. A 7-3 against M&M. Improved their scoreline to the last time they played M&M, and then XTreme, who did have that new player in Lion, you can see the impact he already had. Lion was certainly a standout player from XTreme, but overall, the teamwork and coordination from Vitality was just second to none. A big thing which I just want to pinpoint is the Buck going below, trying to open up from XTreme. He got killed because no one was there covering. You could see in that last round, Vitality sent a Buck below. He started opening from below. Nobody could challenge him because they had Bibu covering. That's the difference. They work together. They know their weaknesses. And that's what they try and improve with their strengths together.
And it worked absolute wonders for them. But I'm looking now and thinking about the dark horse out of tonight in my eyes. And I've got to hark it back to Ghost Killer. How dominant they were against Pat. The 7-2 victory over End, who they were tied with at the start of tonight. They are looking like a terrifying team. And next week, they're coming up against Trust, who they're currently sat in the same sort of region of in the table. And Supremacy, who, as we've seen tonight, haven't really had the best time. They lost to Pact and End, 2 of the teams they should be looking to beat if they want to get themselves into the top 4, and they couldn't achieve that. So I think Ghost Killer might actually be a team that if they're going to threaten second place and knock M&M out of it, they are the team to watch. And in fact, I think based on how standings currently are, everyone has bunny hopped over M&M, so Trust and Team Ghost Killer currently sit ahead. But of course, we have yet to see how that game between M&M and Trust is going to end up just yet. From what I understand right now, it's 2-1 to M&M, so they are the ones in the lead. But of course, as we've already seen several times tonight, things can change very quickly.
Hey, Supremacy are the new pact. Looks to be. No, we hope that isn't going to be the case. But certainly, overall, it's going to be an interesting next 4 play days. Next week is really going to tell the tale to see that final stretch going into the final week. But how about we bring up the table, league standings, if we do have those ready, just so we see who's sitting top, who's still sitting towards that lower echelon. But overall, a good night of Siege. Vitality really putting the foot down. Ghostkilla versus Pac, probably my favorite match of the night. Overall, I just loved Ghostkilla watching their play.
You like watching a landslide?
It wasn't that. It was just the way that they won 6 rounds on attack on Villa.
They had an
really
absolute blast.
It was great. I'm a biased Stiggy, man. That's it. I'm just a biased Stiggy.
What can I say? I actually really like watching the first one. So seeing Pat kind of stepping up against Supremacy was quite interesting to see. Quality of play maybe not quite there as much as you'd expect in some of those other fixtures. And we did see the real difference, I think, in those first 2 games, where in the first one, there was no real trade kills going back and forth. It was kind of every man for himself. And then we moved into the second series between M&M and Vitality. There were a lot of kills being traded back and forth, which really showed the difference between teams at this current stage. And potentially what's going to speak about what we're going to come to playoffs. We will start seeing teams really start to sharpen up or fall off in the build-up to those final couple of weeks.
Like, sure, you can put in all your effort and try and reach that top 4. But overall, even for Vitality, sure, they finished first in the league. That does not mean they get a Pro League spot. There's still the playoffs they go. And let's not forget, those playoffs are in a best-of-3 format with overtime. No draws. That's a completely different game in its own. But, of course, that is quite the distance away.
Let's go to a 20-plus round map on Coastline like we saw at the SI. Why not?
Boy.
Oh,
at least we didn't have a 48 round day today. You know, I think back to, I believe it was week number 2 or 3, where we did have a 48 rounder. Every single round was played. You were quite lucky today.
That was week 3, because there were about 4 or 5 draws, weren't there, that day?
Yeah, there was a lot of draws that day, and it just shows the competitiveness inside of EUCL.
It does, yeah. Although I think now we're starting to see teams are starting to separate themselves apart a little bit, and we are going to see those who really start battling for those top 4 spots. Makes for very interesting watching. We only have 2 weeks of play days left. We have the 15th of April, which of course is next week. And then everything concludes for the group stage at the very least on the 22nd with some really explosive games in that week. Big standout one for me that week is going to be M&M versus Ghostkilla, because that's going to be the big battle in those top 4s. By which point I think we'll already know that Vitality will have found themselves in the top spot, but there are going to be some real mid-table brawls there to fight it out for those top 4 spots. And given how the table is right now, there is no guarantee of who's going to be there and who won't be, so you definitely have to tune in, especially for that final week, if not next week, to see how the story sets itself out for that 7th and final week.
Overall, that is going to be us here done for tonight. And of course, we still do have the Benelux stream going on, so make sure you do go over and check out M&M versus Trust, as that is, again, another very heated matchup, to say the least. But overall, guys, going to be me signing off, and also for Dez, until next time.